All right, this is going to be about normalization, which is a really complex process. Normalization is a series of steps to go through to remove anomalies and difficulties from your database. There are a lot of them, but we're only going to talk about the first three. A couple of things. There's a Google Slides on this. I'm not going to do it this time. You should look at the Google Slides. What I'm going to do is just go through a process that's close to what your assignment will be like. So first of all, I want to just kind of reiterate what the first three levels of normalization are. So the first level basically says you can't list things. Every attribute needs to have a single value. You can't have a attribute like songs and then list all the songs in it, for instance. It just violates the database norm. It makes it impossible to look up any individual song. And every entity needs to have a primary key. It needs to have something that uniquely identifies it. The second one is that every entity that you create should be about one thing only. There shouldn't be any subgroups. That's what they call functional dependencies. This should be attributes. So there shouldn't be any subgroups of attributes that refer to each other but not the main topic, which is the key of the entity. And they should be reduced. They should be removed and placed in their own entity. The third one is that any attribute that modifies another attribute which is not a key, the key of the entity should be removed. So these two are kind of similar, but this is about a whole subgroup of things that relate to each other, and this is about like a single attribute that is just related to another attribute that isn't part of the key. So let's take an example of this. So I have here, I made a little Excel sheet for one table. It's about events, and it could work as an Excel sheet, but it's certainly not a good database sheet. So we have an ID. So we solved that. We already have an ID. Each event has a name. It has a topic. It has times, different times that it could be offered, different dates. It has rooms, and they're listed out as room 1, 2, and 3. And it has a location name, location address, location city, location state, location postal. It has a host name and a host email, and it has a list of presenters. So this is there just to give you a sense of the what the data could look like. What I have done is I have actually created a list of all those fields as part of an entity. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through and look at it in terms of the normal forms, and we'll do it in order. All right, so even though you can probably see problems right up front, what we first want to look for are things where an entity might have more than one value. So for example, event times and event dates. We also have presenters, which is plural, right? It has much things. So I'm going to create an entity called, let's call presentation times. It'll include the presentation. I'm going to call this, give it an ID here, and that'll be a primary key. We'll relate these in a moment. And then we'll do, I'm going to call it presentation time without the capital N, and presentation date. We might also put the room, well, let's worry about that in a moment. So these, the presentation times and dates, those were plural. Can I do... I want a strike through. Do they have strike through? I don't see a strike through possibility here. So we'll just leave it. This is for reference. The other thing we need to pull out are presenters for sure. And I'm just going to pull this out and do presenters. And presenters will give them their own ID. We can get rid of these. So presenter ID. And I'm going to give them first name, last name. Now you could probably give them a lot of other stuff too, like what their specialty is and etc. Okay, so we've got those out of there. Really would like to be able to cross through things here. Wonder how you do that. Anyway, just remember that those are out. Now there's one other violation of first normal form, right? So let's go to I'm just looking again. There's nothing. Okay, we won't worry about it. All right, so we got presenters taken out. We have got the times, and we've also put the date in there. We have got another problem, which is the room 1, location room 1, 2, and 3. This is another thing that you should never do. Never list things out. Even though they're not plural in themselves, it's a problem. For instance, if there's only one room, you'd have to search 3 fields to figure out which room it is. If there were only one, if there were 4 rooms, you would not have any idea, what to do with the 4th one. So it's never a good idea to do that. So I am going to put, for right now, I'm just going to put rooms out there. We may adjust this in a bit. I'm going to leave room by itself for right now. We'll fix that in a moment. All right, so those all violate first normal form. Let me write a little note here. Times, dates, presentations, and rooms violate one value to entity. To attribute. All right. So that's basically for 1. So let's look and see what happens for 2. 2 is where you have lists of things, subgroups, and I made this very obvious by the naming. So the location, all of this location information is a subgroup. So I am going to take the subgroup out. You know what? I was going to leave this for reference, but I think it'd be clearer if I just get rid of the fields that I've moved out. Whoa! Control Z. I just want to remove that. And I want to remove the rooms because we pulled that out. We'll do those in a moment. We also remove the times, and we remove the dates because they were all plural. S's at the end are a good indication that those are plural. All right, so location is a subgroup. It's one of those functional dependencies, right? So I'm going to create an entity called location, and I wonder if I can drag these. No. So I'm just going to do location ID. We'll make that a primary key. And I will do all the location. Location name, location address, add one here, location city, location state, and location zip code. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of all these keys so that we have the locations. So all the location information can be gotten rid of here. Okay, so that was second normal form, and I'm going to create a I'm going to say location information created a sub list inside of event, and so needed its own entity. Okay, so that's second normal form. Actually, let me do one for that, two for the second normal form. All right, and in the third normal form is for a single field that modifies another field, a single attribute that modifies another attribute that doesn't modify the event. So for instance, we have event host and we have event email. Event email modifies event host. Actually, let's make that clear. Event host email, or just host email. Okay, so we're going to say that that violates third normal form because this modifies that. So that means that host needs to be separated out. And so I'm going to do a host ID, host name, and then host email. Okay. So at this point, we have, so I'm going to do, for room, I'm going to do room ID. We'll say room number. I don't know. I'm going to leave the other field for a moment. We'll see if we use it. So I'm going to get rid of this and this. So notice our event has got a lot smaller, and our one table has now been broken into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables. But it'll be even a little bit more complex. Alright, so one event can have many presentation times. I think we want to create a thing called presentation. So one event can have multiple presentation times. And each presentation time can have many presenters, but presenters can also present at more than one thing. So we need a linking table because it's a many-to-many relation. So I'm going to create a presenter and I'll do a presenter ID presentation time ID. You probably hear the neighbors. All right. So presentations also take place at a location. So I might add a field here to here, which will be a location ID. And that'll be a foreign key. And what I'll do is we'll just do a relationship to here. I'm going to try not to make a total mess out of this. All right. And a room probably is also here. So I'm going to add another one, be a foreign key, and a room. All right, and in the host, I am just going to add a field here, which will be the host ID. And it'll be just a relationship here. Now, if every event only has one host, this could be a one-to-one, or it could be a one-to-many. One-to-many will work there, even if it actually, in fact, is only one-to-one. So I think we have this all done. I hope this isn't too confusing. I'm going to move this over. We took that one big table, and that was all this was event. We broke it into presentation times, presenters, presenter time, location, room, and host. So presenters are linked to a particular presentation time. The time is linked to a particular location, linked to a particular room, and a host is linked to an event. This may have confused you more than helped, but what I want you to do is just give it a try. And then I will...
I just watched him, a black cat just went in. Huh? It just went underneath the house into the crawl space. Has your crawl space been open for a while?
Alright, so I'm going to kill this recording.